It was just before OG PulseChain, but yeah, he kind of added to it, which was good. But it was actually a friend of mine, Randy Oswood. Some of you would know him. He's quite a big guy in the UK scene. So he calls me up, right? I'm on my phone and he's like, "Hey, I think an entity is moving funds. You need to check this out." So he sends me the transaction hash. I then look at the wallets. I've got a list of wallets that I suspect might be an entities or might not be an entities, and then next thing you know, I see, significant amount of, I think it was about 42 million at the time, something like that. 42 million DAI that was from the PulseX sacrifice moved to a daughter address, and then from that daughter address started moving, and that moved into Aave. So I originally put, hey, Aave, I think somebody named Richard might be moving into Aave. So then I looked at it, I kind of broke it down. There was money that was moved to a DAI, which is like Aave's representation token. So when you put the DAI into the protocol itself, you earn some yield and you'll receive a DAI. Then there was also another function that was done on that. There was a breakdown of, I think, 28 million that was then divvied up into about 14.1 million into two different wallets. So if you follow the chain of wallets, it's like a load of different transactions, because it gets sent to two wallets, then it gets sent to another two wallets. So essentially what's happened was 14 million got put into something called CDAI, which is compound DAI. So it was put onto compound, and they get a token representation for essentially staking or depositing DAI to the protocol itself. And then there was another 7 million, I want to say. I haven't got the figures in front of me, but if you go look at my last video, you'll be able to see the whole breakdown. And there was some deposited to something called a ETH DAI. So it's almost like a protocol backed. It looks like a combination of ETH and DAI combined, and so you get like a receipt as per se of that particular token. So he's got C DAI, he's got a DAI, and he's got a ETH DAI, and then he or she, whoever it is. And then there was a massive movement today from a different wallet of 104 million DAI that then went out and was used on this protocol called Spark.fi, which is made by MakerDAO, and it gives you something called SDAI. So SDAI is a token representation, and he'd put 42 million. How much did he put into it? I think he put in about another 42 million into that, and $104 million off the top of my head. I've got it all written down. The last video I've done is blown up right now. It's got every single transaction, where it's gone, where it went to, what it got swapped to. Now, why is SDAI more important, or why is it significant? Well, one of the wallets that exchanged 42 million DAI for SDAI, it ended up sending $50 of that SDAI to another wallet, which then sent it to another wallet, and then that wallet took that SDAI and bridged it on the PulseChain OmniBridge. So it was almost like a test transaction of about $50 that was brought across. So yeah, that is a lot to take in. The most common questions that I'm getting is, why is he putting it into yield-based protocols? Because all of these protocols are yield-based. So it's essentially you're giving up your DAI, you're getting a representation token, and you're earning about 5 to 10% APY per year on your DAI. So that's the first question that I'm getting a lot. Also, the second question is, why is he bridging it across? Why was there a bridge across of SDAI, for example? And a lot of people are saying, well, why didn't he just buy the ETH bottom back in when ETH hit $800? And the common theory is, hey, he missed that bottom. He thought it was going to go down to $500. Speculators are saying he didn't purchase it up at the right time. And look, he could have made so much more money. He could have made billions, or he could have made millions, or whatever people are saying, from just buying up ETH and staking ETH and seeing how it goes up.
I want to hit on that real quick too, because I mean, you get a lot of comments, and I see a lot of people talking about, oh, he's not as smart as you think he is, and oh, he could have totally did this, and a lot of, I mean, again, probably smart people out there who do analysis who can see that, yeah, there was a bottom of ETH, there was, a different timing opportunity that the entity with a ton of money could take advantage of, but it almost makes me have more confidence. And this, again, I don't want to, anything you come up with, the positive spin on this will just be like labeled as cope or whatever. But I really do think that I would like, if there's some benevolent entity out there making these moves, I don't want them to be like this with millions and like billions of dollars. I don't want them to be like, oh, maybe this will work. If they're not sure about something, and if it was Richard or otherwise, if they're not sure, maybe they don't maybe they just don't take an action. Maybe they say, okay, worst case, if I'm wrong, I'm gonna look like I lost a lot of money on chain. Everyone can see it. And worst case, I just don't make all that extra money, but I still keep the money that I got. So it's safe. So it's keeping the money. If I got to pick one, this isn't like 500K in your personal account. This is millions or billions of dollars we're talking about here. I'm okay with a conservative approach and not taking advantage of every single market situation if the person controlling the funds wasn't sure. So to me, that just makes the most sense. And again, who cares if that 600 million didn't turn into 2 or 3 billion? Like, does that how does it affect anything? I think we're already going to take over DeFi. Are we going to take over harder DeFi? Like 2 scoops ice cream, 3 scoops ice cream? Like, I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, it's. I got my theories on it, but yeah, everyone wants to say, what would you do with hundreds of millions of dollars? You have to be careful, man. Like, you have to be really careful interacting with any contract if you've got that amount of money in a wallet or near a wallet or whatever. Even if you've got tens of millions of dollars, let alone nearly a billion, like, you have to be very cautious of what you do, what you interact with, which protocols you interact with. And on top of that as well, it's like you can make the market with those amounts of money, right? We know that he's had lots of top calls that have been very successful, and a lot of people question, hey, maybe he made the market. There's a reason why his top calls came in quite well, maybe because he was making the market. But again, that's just speculation. But the other thing I would like to say as well is that the legal issues. Let's talk about the legal issues as well. So the bottom of ETH, I've got it on the chart here, like the drop down to $800 or 870, I think was the exact amount, was in June 2022. I think it was like the 18th, I want to say, or the 17th, something like that. When did the SEC lawsuit come against Richard? It was 1st of August. Do you think that Richard knew about the SEC lawsuit prior to the 1st of August? Do you think that there might be some knowledge of that? I remember he was quite quiet around that time. So literally about a month from the bottom of ETH to the lawsuit that came on his lap, do you think his lawyers are going to be telling him to go and purchase up with the SAC funds a bunch of ETH? A month, literally a month. The bottom was a month before. So do you think he's getting told, hey, it's a really good idea, go purchase up a bunch of ETH with the sacrifice funds? You don't know. You're in the middle of a lawsuit that's going to be put onto your lap. Why would you go and do something as stupid as purchase up a bunch of ETH at the bottom when you don't know you can touch those funds or not? Now, the funds are moving. They're doing their thing, and they've been deployed. There's been some deployment of those funds. So clearly, the circumstances have changed. Clearly, there is a ability to be able to use those funds as the individual or the entity so pleases.
Well, going with that thesis, I mean, if it was something that wasn't advisable to do at the time, and then all this stuff started happening after the response and stuff came out, I mean, that's a 2 + 2, right? Like those two fit together as the thesis.
Yeah, and maybe he wanted the bottom. Maybe he wanted extreme. Again, I have this theory whereby I do believe that PulseChain had so much money come into it, and it had so many individuals that may or may not want the chain to do well. They wanted to make a quick buck, so they chucked in their sacrifice amounts. So he wanted to make wanted let his hands to go out. He wanted people to sell, and to sell possibly at a loss. But it would never be stated on camera. It would never be stated. But I think when you've got that amount of money and that many expectations, you have to have people who win and who lose, unfortunately. So
Yeah,
that's my theory. Again, I'm not trying to just justify the actions of certain individuals, but that's just me speculating.
I think the theory that makes the most sense to me is, yeah, what you said there, just being cautious and doing only advisable moves around that time for whatever reason. And then again, just my point of being a conservative person with a ton of money that most people will never even can even visual. I mean, I don't think any human brain can actually visualize what $1 billion is, let alone several billion or a trillion. And the pressure that you got to not have, the pressure that you must welcome in order to manage such a thing. So, or manage it with your entity or otherwise. So those two things make the most sense to me. And, I think I'll just go with the obvious, and that's why. And like I said, it's 2 scoops asking 3 scoops. Like, would you rather have $600 million or would you have, $2 billion? Like, does it even matter at that point? That's just one piece too. That's just one piece of all these other pieces too. We're not even talking about all the million ETH from the AA. I mean, we can talk about all that stuff. Like this, I don't try to believe I'm smarter than billionaire genius founder guy. I try not to do that. But the other two,
it's gonna be interesting.
The other 2 points I want to get into too was the first 2 you touched on, just around things moving around. Why? And so the most straightforward explanation is earning yield. So you put things in. That's what the protocols are used for, right? You mint the DAI from the protocols to earn the yield. You get a certain APR per year. All that stuff too. So if you go with the theory that it's just not going to be parked in there for the cycle or something, or it's not related to helping the PulseChain ecosystem at all. If you just like get that out of the way and think, okay, how can this be beneficial? What could this be used for the helping further glory for the ecosystem and all these other things that we built upon the foundations of why the guy exists in all these different dimensions. What other case could you make? We could talk about liquidity pairing and stuff, bridging. I mean, I think the coolest thing to me that happened was the test transaction. I think the most alarming, the most interesting thing was the test transaction of having all the millions of dollars and then just sending $50 bridging across the bridge. To me, that was, I didn't even get it at first. When I first saw it come out, I was like, oh, I think I didn't even realize he actually sent $50 across the bridge of what could be millions of dollars. That's the most alarming part to me. So how does that, if he were to bridge the millions of dollars across in some form of stablecoin after the test transaction, assuming they found out it worked, how does that help the ecosystem? Is it just pairing stuff with it? Is it you think it'll be like buys of the actual tokens? What are your ideas on that? I'll bring up some other speculation too, but what do you think?
That's a good question. I'll be honest with you, it's not something that I've overly thought about. I know I've been doing a load of stuff on it, but it's not something I've been overly thought about. I think it could be paired. It could be used to purchase up tokens. It could be used to, so much of the ecosystem is so bonded together, and he's bringing essentially something from another chain. It can be from Gnosis chain. It can be from Ethereum itself. It can be multiple different chains. You can take it from that particular chain, bring it across. So he's bringing value into the ecosystem itself. Does it get paired with certain products? I have to ask smarter people than myself to really analyze this and go for it, because it's either the interest is going to be used every month. So there's going to be 7% approximately per month on $177 million, which is still quite a bit. Or it could be a case where I don't know, maybe it gets paired to something. It's really hard for me to distinguish what exactly is happening, but yeah. What's your thoughts? Let me hear your thoughts.
I mean, just I can just riff on the whole yield portion. So if it is literally just to be put into a protocol to earn yield, I mean, just putting some pieces together on the speculation part, I mean, maybe perhaps where you were going with it too a little bit, and other people trying to pull the strings on that yield go into, perpetual buy pressure for the ecosystem. I mean, if we can dream, let's dream big, man. I mean, why not? Like that sounds cool. Like making ETH yield pay to pump PulseChain. Like, how incredible and practical would that be? I mean, it's not even a dream. It makes sense, but like I'm almost afraid to even think it may be true because it sounds so cool. Yeah, that's the first thing that comes to my mind.
Doesn't that make sense? Isn't that like 4-5D chairs? So, like you take the yield that you can make on different protocols and bring it across and be able to pump that particular. I mean, it literally is just value moving from chain to chain, essentially. It's like maybe that's it. I'm not sure. That would be really good, but a lot of people will be like, "Why didn't he start ages ago? And why didn't he do it for like 24?" I mean, this is high risk, man. 177 million. Trying to get yield on that. You've got to be in protocols that have been around for a long period of time. Aave's been around a long period of time. Compound's been around for a long period of time. MakerDAO has been around for a long period of time. Only these things were released in 21, I think, during DeFi season. So these haven't been around for a long period of time. Yeah.
Yeah, chat. What are your speculations? I'll bring up. Heard that breaking. Richard just tweeted again. I'll bring it up here in a second. But what do you guys think? What are your best theories? We got quite a few people here. What are your best theories on what would make sense? Again, if he's putting money, if someone is putting money into protocols on ETH to earn yield, and we don't just think, hey, we're just going to earn yield forever and cool, no expectations. I have no other stuff. If you assume something interesting is going to happen from it, is it to mint those coins and bridge those over and pair with stuff to add more stablecoin value on PulseChain to things? Is it to take the yield earned from that, use that for perpetual buy pressure type of thing? Like, man, we're here to take over. I don't know if people realize that we're like all these theories of no glory. They're just not nearly as interesting as the glory ones.
Ethereum's dead expensive as well. I was doing some transactions the other day, like $50-$70 for a transaction. I was like, oh my goodness, this is. I mean, it's fine for me, but I can't think of a new person wanting to do DeFi on Ethereum and getting absolutely ruined by transaction fees and gas fees. Yeah, it's crazy.